Welcome to this episode of Heavy Metal History. My guest for this is Peter Blue Spinazola. Welcome to the podcast, Blue.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, man. So I'm sure people will see it in the description, but you are in two bands, so we're going to those bands. You're the guitar Harry, and you and fit for an autopsy. How did that happen? How are you in both those bands at the same time, man?
Well, that's just the tip of the icebergs of the bands that I do currently. I actually have
Yeah,
four.
no.
I have four projects that I actually do at this moment. I'm generally kind of a big band guy. But yeah, like you said, I play guitar in Dysentery. I play bass in Fit for an Autopsy. I also play guitar in another death metal band called Scattered Remnants, and I also do guitar and bass in kind of like a side project band, also death metal called Exorcist too, as well. But Dysentery and Fit for an Autopsy are the bands that definitely get the most and do a lot of the most touring, I guess, and have the most current output and stuff like that. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So before we dig too far into that, like I mentioned, the thing that I always like to start with cast is your personal heavy metal those bands and records that you remember that kind of got you into the genre and why they stood out and meant so much to you at the time.
oh man, definitely the stuff that got me in. My parents, I guess, first and foremost, they kind of put me into like the kind of hard rock stuff
Mhm.
of the time that they grew up in. Like, my mom was a big Aerosmith person, big Alice Cooper, a lot of, the harder rock at the time. My dad's big into Floyd, Zeppelin,
Oh,
stuff
nice.
like that. So it was kind of easy, I think, because I just remember from when I was a kid, just, being familiar with heavy music, hard rock, stuff like that. So like, my first exposures that really got me myself is like when I first got exposed to Kiss when I was a kid,
Mhm.
Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, a lot Metallica, a lot of your kind of like starter pack stuff.
Yeah.
I was getting into this stuff, really early 90s. So, I was getting exposed to whatever was the easiest stuff to get a hold of at the time. So it was going to be a lot of, maybe the more popular hard classic heavy rock of the time. But I definitely started with the starter pack stuff. But Kiss, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Metallica, Slayer, those are the real. That's like kind of square one for me where I started on all heavy music basically.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you've gone deep down the rabbit hole considering you have like a slam band. As far as I'm concerned, probably the most brutal aspect out of all metal, just just because of like the I I guess the kind of bad rap it gets for being so like gross, with like the,
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
gross
yeah.
shit on
No,
the
it's
covers and the names and
yeah, for
yeah.
sure. It's definitely the freak music for the freak extra weirdos. People like to talk about heavy metal being like, the outsider music for the weirdos and stuff like that, but it's like the extra fringe side of the super brutal stuff. It's like, okay, it's like, oh, that's the freak weirdo stuff for the outcasts. It's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But hey, I've always been a guy about riffs, about heaviness, about, I've always loved extremity, and stuff like that. So like that's really, I guess, where my love of that stuff comes from is just the power of the riffs. Because the reason why I love heavy metal in the first place really is just like the riff is really square one for me. Whether it be
Yeah.
like a sick old school heavy metal riff or just like a brutal ass fast trim picking death metal riff or something like that. It's always been like a guitar thing for me.
Yep.
It's that's what has always got me about that stuff in the first place. It's just the riffs, guitar, instrumentation, all that stuff.
Yeah, that's what I usually gravitate to, man. It's like, what does the guitar sound like? How's the tone? What are they playing? Like any more
It's
than
all
anything else.
it all depends on, what do you play? Are you a singer? Are you a drummer? It's like, all right, that's usually gonna be the determining factor. I
Yeah.
love everything, but it's always the power of riff that compels me. So
Um, Now this could just be down to JJ's, but I noticed you were having some issues before you guys played. What was going on with that?
oh
I forgot
yeah.
that.
Yeah, there was some fun power stuff going on with the venue that night. I think the venue definitely the power kind of screw with one of my amp heads, and
Oh
there was
shit.
definitely some gear gremlins going on that night that I never totally figured out. But one of my heads did go down that night. But hey, it's all rock and roll. Everything sounded fine in the end.
Yeah.
So, as long as nobody didn't notice, you're always your own worst critic and stuff like that. So like
Right.
when gear goes down, I'm always in my head just getting annoyed and angry and be like, oh, things aren't going out the way they should be. But everybody's like, it sounded like a band playing songs. So
Yeah, the venue's a little rough.
I listen, it's
You know.
it's that's rock and roll for you.
Yeah.
Gear shitting the bed, things going wrong, gear gremlins, that's kind of what comes with it, when you're playing a little hole in the wall bar venue, sometimes the electric situation isn't going to be the best, and
Yeah.
you got to just roll with the punches sometimes.
Yeah. With your guitar stuff and your gear, are you like a big gearhead? Do you collect a lot of guitars, cases,
I
and
I am definitely a self-proclaimed gear nerd, guitar and bass wise, amps, guitars, everything. I love gear as much as I love music. I love the guitar, amp, instrument side of it. I'm not like a recording nerd per se.
yeah.
I have my limited knowledge of that stuff like that, but I am firmly a I love guitar history. I love music history. I love everything about that stuff. But yeah, I'm fully a guitar nerd, and I'm staring at my wall of guitars right now because I'm in the same room as all my gear right now. So,
Yeah, I would love to hear about some of your guitars. Like tell me some of your favorites, why you chose them, things
oh
like that.
man, well, yeah, I've got a bunch. I've got 4 and 5 string basses. I've got 6 and 7
Nice.
string guitars. But a bunch of my favorites, obviously, with Fit for an Autopsy, I'm all Ibanez basses. So I've got a nice little array of sound gear basses, and with Fishman Fluence pickups that I absolutely love. Those things are just super comfy for me. They allow me to get around the fretboard real quick. They sound great. They're just killer road dogs. I love all those things.
Yeah, that's
For
important too.
I'm also, but other than my bass stuff, I'm a really big Ibanez guy. Always have been. I've got a bunch of 7 strings and 6 strings that I love. But I'm a huge Ibanez guy. Like I said, I got like my oldest one has got a 1979 all the way up to, I've got stuff from this year. So like I said, I definitely like love history. Therefore, I love old guitars and new stuff. Like I've got like a 79 Ibanez. I've got like an 86 BC Rich Bitch NJ series.
Damn.
I've got like a 93 Ibanez S series. I've got I got a lot of RGs. I got just a lot of cool stuff across the board, but I just like collecting. I like different pickups. I like different amps. I like solid state. I like tube stuff. But honestly, I could go on forever. But long story short, I'm a big Ibanez guy. But I got some other stuff. I got like, some smaller builders like Blackheart Guitars out of Virginia Beach. I got one of theirs. I got a custom shop Carvin 7 string from the
Oh,
mid 2000s. I've got like an ESP 4 string bass that I love. But yeah, and the collection's always kind of growing and dwindling, and things are coming in and out, whether it be pedals or amps and combos. Yeah, but I have a healthy gear exception to put it lightly.
what were you playing at that show? It was a red guitar, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That guitar I was playing at that show is my newest Ibanez that I just picked up a couple months ago.
Oh, sick.
It's an Ibanez RGT 2020. Ibanez model name is ridiculously long
Right.
sometimes, but it's a neck through hardtail 6 string. I recently picked up for Dysentery. My main guitar for years it's a Blackheart guitar. It's a company out of Virginia Beach. It's the Jack Owen signature when he was in Deicide.
Oh, hell yeah.
It's like a Floyded Les Paul basically. And I absolutely love that thing. I've recorded the last few albums with Dysentery with it, and I loved it. But I wanted kind of something like a more utilitarian, just an easy, not Floyded, just stop tail, just string up and kind of go riff machine. Because like I wanted something that's easier to fly with too. It's something that if it's the only guitar I have with me and I break a string, it's a quick restring with a hardtail as opposed to a Floyd. Something
Yep.
that's kind of a quick grab and go in case. I think yeah, I kind of like to have tools for all situations. So like for Dysentery, I have my Floyded guitar and I have my stop tail, to cover both bases if need be. But that I did the whole last Dysentery tour with and to kind of break it in, and that thing's been killing it. But I love that thing. It's just a bare bones utilitarian. Just it is a neck through hardtail riffer, and it's just meant for chunky riffs, and that's what it delivers for me perfectly, and I love it for that.
Yeah, that it looked pretty cool, man. I don't guitar right now, but I used to have a couple, and like uh favorites was an Ibanez, but it had that damn Floyd Rose on it, and I just couldn't deal with it, so I got rid of it, and
It's
now I
it's
got a
def
solid.
the Floyd Roses aren't for everybody, and I will say there is a bit of a learning curve with it.
Yeah,
And I didn't own my first Floyd Rose until maybe upwards of like 10 years of playing guitar, and I'm kind of glad that's the case because I know a lot of people that hate them because they started on them early, never figured them out, and cheap Floyd Roses don't necessarily always perform the way you want them to. And they're not for everybody either. Like I love Floyd Roses because the tuning stability can, when you have a properly set up Floyd Rose, your tuning stability can be absolutely fantastic.
yeah,
And just the way it feels can be just rock solid. But like I said, they're not for everybody. But I got stop tails, I got Floyds, I got Kahlers, I got, like I got an 80, like my 80s BC Rich Bitch has like an early licensed Floyd on it, and it holds tune and it plays as great as some of my high end top of the line Floyd Roses, and it's just kind of like a cheap 35-year-old copy. It's like,
damn,
you know, but I've had some licensed Floyd Roses just be absolutely awful and can't hold tuning. So like it really has to do with the quality and how well you know the trem, but it's different strokes for different folks. There's a reason why we have so many different styles and types of guitars and trems and pickups because it's something for everybody kind of thing. And if you're a hardtail guy, respect. If you're into Floyd's, respect. It's something for everybody. That's the kind of way I see it.
yeah, yeah. That was the thing I learned real quick is like, well, this guitar is not for me, so it's like I ended up getting rid of it and got something else.
Yeah.
But
Everybody, some people like are hard on one brand. Like obviously I'm a heavy Ibanez guy, but nobody like everybody, like in my opinion, everybody has, the great stuff. Everybody has high end and low end stuff.
mhm.
And you get what you pay for, and quality components go a long way. And there's a lot of different factors that go a long way into this kind of stuff. And it's also what you dig, and sometimes you're into what you're into, and respect, dig it. And if it makes you enjoy playing more, go for it. If something detracts you more, don't use it, don't go for it. Like, whatever inspires you, there's no wrong way to do it. If you want to string your guitar upside down, do it. It's like, like
Yeah,
whatever gets you stoked, whatever gets you hyped, whatever you're into, go for it. Different strokes for different folks. Like, let people like what they like kind of stuff. Because, you're like you said, you're not that into Floyd's, but I'm a big Floyd guy. But I know a lot of people that get repulsed by the stuff. But hey, dig what you dig, and more power to you.
yeah, yeah. That's what I always do. Like you have a ton of guitars. It's like they're all different or all the same. Like in terms of like what they like. That's the
Yeah,
fun
yeah.
thing is seeing that.
Exactly. Like while most of my guitars are fairly metal centric, except of like my one acoustic and my one Les Paul, which kind of like fill their things. But like a lot of my metal guitars, but like it's all different pickups. They're
Yeah,
all different takes of different things, and I have so many guitars in different tunings. I have basses in different tunings. That's another thing that I really dig. It's like I wanted to have different things for different things. My Les Paul, I like keeping a half step down. It's kind of like my Thin Lizzy guitar or my classic rock guitar, my 1979 Ibanez. It's like it's a standard guitar. I keep it in standard. Like I want all of my guitars to be able to do different things, and
Yeah.
have different, not necessarily maybe not different tones totally, but like, different vibes, I guess. Because like
Yeah.
I want them to all be able to sound big and sound, sound chunky, maybe for, you know, some variation of rock or metal or something like that. But I want them to be in the same vibe, I guess, is where I look for. But not everybody's like that.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes sense though. So, Dysentery, man, finally getting new stuff. It's taken a while.
Yeah, it has it's taken a long time. I don't know how much you've followed the band over the years, but yeah, it's
Off and on.
been it's been 9 years since our
Yeah.
last full length and 8 years since our last anything release. So, but yeah, we're nearing the end of the wait. Pretty much fully written. I'd say like 90% written for the new full length, and we're really shooting for recording in a few months, maybe like beginning of next year. We're trying to shoot for
Nice.
recording, and obviously everything is always tentative, but we're trying to shoot for like a mid 25 release,
Okay.
trying to get that done. And we're really trying to make sure that next time around, obviously, I joined Fit for an Autopsy basically like a little over a year after the last Dysentery full length was released. So
Yep.
that coming into the Fit fold and doing a couple albums with them and kind of really getting into the swing with them kind of took priority because you know, Dysentery's we got a lot of dudes doing their family life and a lot of stuff, that have a lot more importance than necessarily grinding on the road and writing tons of stuff like that. People have lives and careers and stuff like that. And people were pursuing those things. And I kind of did a turn with joining Fit. So I was doing a lot of that grind with that. But that whole time we were slowly a song would get written here or there. We'd be getting our jams in, shows in, stuff. So the wheels have always been turning, but obviously 2020 put a sideline for a couple of years, as it did with a lot of people and stuff like
Yep.
that. But we were always slowly putting new riffs in, stuff like that, always slowly getting new songs. So like luckily we've been honing the material the whole time. So a lot of the stuff's really been woodshedded a lot. So we've in the past like few months, me and my drummer have been really getting back into the rehearsal mode, making sure all the songs are really glued together tightly and stuff like that, and doing all of that stuff. So because it's kind of obviously Dysentery is a band with over 20 years in the belt, and we're all dudes basically all in our 40s more or less at this point. So, a lot of our people have different priorities in life and stuff like that. So, we've
Yeah.
been trying to find our way through and writing new material and figuring out how to do more shows and do all this stuff while I have a full basically my I have a full-time job with Fit,
Yep.
and having to and being able to find my way in the sidelines with writing a new Dysentery full length, also with doing new material with my other two projects too. It's I'm always writing and stuff like that, and I'm always woodshedding and stuff like that, but not everybody else always has that kind of free time that I might have. Like, yeah, Fit consumes a lot of my time, but when I'm home I'm fully grinding away on other stuff, but not everybody else has that ability. That's,
Yeah.
like everybody else has kids and being home with their families and stuff like that. And I have a wonderful partner that I'm lucky to be with and stuff like that. But when I'm home, I'm not taking care of the kids. I'm not, holding down the homestead kind of like they are. I'm just sitting at home working on more music and riffing away and stuff like that half the time. So, I have a lot more time to be able to grind away on that stuff. So I'm kind of fortunate with that. But with that said, it allowed me to kind of grind away on new tunes while maybe the boys weren't able to. But then we reconvene and I say, here's more stuff. And then we woodshed it and stuff like that. But, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, new album, Dysentery full length is actually coming. 2025 is the release year fully. The album title is not fully done yet, but everything is slowly coming together on that stuff. But you will be hearing new Dysentery, and you will be seeing us back on the road again, supporting it too in the future, for
Nice.
sure.
Yeah, I guess it's good being able to just kind of, go out songs when you're able to instead of like forcing it, Like I bet that would probably be a whole lot more stressful just being like, okay, we have to done. We have to write it in this amount of time and get it out by this time, and that kind of takes the fun out of it, I would assume.
Well, yeah, it's definitely, playing stuff like underground brutal death metal. It's not, it's for your own satisfaction. It's for the love of the music type thing. And we're
Yeah.
also like, when we were younger, yeah, we wanted to tour a lot. We wanted to put out more stuff consistently. We wanted to write and bang it out when we had the free time. But, that's a lot of this stuff is more of a young man's game and stuff like that. So, we do what we can when we can. And, everybody in the underground knows how this works. I always joke about it. I call it death metal time. And that's kind of like the nice way of saying everything takes longer. It's not a style of music that makes money. It's not a style of music that gets anything paid. So we do it when we can afford the time, when we can afford the recording, when we can afford any, you know, free moments to create. But with that said, it will be worth it. And if you are a fan of this band, you will be happy with what we have for you in store. The heavy parts are heavier, the fast parts are faster. The shit hits the way you want a Dysentery song and album to hit. We're definitely happy with it. We wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't.
Yeah.
If it doesn't get the seal of approval, we're not going to do it. It needs to make us have like we have to have fun playing it. It has to pop the way we want it to for it to be, to get the dysentery kind of stamp. So we're happy with it. And if you've ever liked this band before, you're gonna hear it and be like, oh, this sounds like I'm gonna want a dysentery song to sound. So, there's no weirdness, there's no out of pocket stuff for us. It's always gonna be brutal, it's always gonna be heavy, it's always gonna groove, it's always gonna make you want to bob your head, throw a table, or smash something. That's just what we do.
Yeah, the interesting thing to me too is like you kind of have this like best of both worlds thing to where like like kind of clubs and smaller venues, and you have a band that's like playing giant venues and bigger and you know kind of stuff like that, and having that difference of like band, how do you like how is it for you, like getting
I know,
into
I
like
know, I know, I know what you're getting at. And I guess the long story short is it's very wild to like, because you're basically like, you know, since I'm still playing a very underground focused music,
yeah
like you saw the other week at JJ's, I'm still fully entrenched in the underground. I still fully do, the grimy underground death metal venues, and I'm still fully a part of a scene that is very much it's a bar scene. It's a club scene. It's
yeah
brutal music. It was never meant to surpass. It's a style of music that's meant to be in the dirty underground. That's what it is. That's metal is that. It's the everyman's music, so it belongs in your clubs, in your bars, and stuff like that. But and because of that, I guess between Fit and doing stuff like Scattered Remnants and Dysentery Live, it's like I'm fully entrenched in the underground death metal. But the fact of the matter is, Fit for an Autopsy came from that same scene too.
right
So it's
yeah
kind of easy to, like, obviously, we do stuff that I could have never imagined in 1,000 years. Like, the tours that Fit for an Autopsy gets to do now with some of our heroes and getting to do wild shows with huge crowds that we're very fortunate, and I would have never thought, but like it all started with playing the same clubs that I would play with Dysentery. My first tours with Fit for an Autopsy would be in the same clubs that I would be playing a month or two before with Dysentery.
yeah
So it's all the same scene. It just happened to Fit just happened to step up the ladder and get to we got to be a part of these very cool things, and now we're very fortunate to be able to play to be on the same stages with, the best in the game now. But like I think, because of us being from that underground, it allows us to be able to just kind of look at it and like obviously we are very, very stoked and we are so happy to be doing it. And it's like the
Oh yeah.
sickest. It's still every day I do that stuff with we do fit tours and I'm like, I just still can't get over, you know, the style of music, getting into these rooms and these places, it's just like the wildest stuff in the world. It's still beyond my dreams, but like it's still playing brutal heavy music. So it's like
Yeah.
it's like I'm still playing these clubs, stuff like that. It's like, all right, cool. It's just another day getting to play cool heavy riffs with cool, with heavy guitars and stuff like that. But like I don't know. Obviously, it helps keep me grounded, I guess, because I get to see these cool. I get to still be in the underground where I really love it and belong. But like, you know, um, I don't know. It gets me. I don't know. It's like a great full circle thing, and it just allows me to it allows me to be very fortunate, I guess, and allows me to just every day I get to do every aspect of it and just say thank you. I'm just happy that I have the opportunity. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
no, you get to see both sides of the coin basically, whereas like some bands work their way up and never go back to it, you know. They're not playing clubs after a certain point.
well, I don't ever, see myself not playing any room ever, like all rooms are the rooms I want to play. Like doesn't matter
Yeah.
where it is on what end of the planet. That's always been my goal is to just get to be able to play as many places and travel as many places and meet as many people and just play cool riffs in cool places. And the fact that anybody digs it is awesome. And I say it a lot, but I'm fortunate. Heavy metal is the coolest stuff on the planet because I get to play riffs and people get to bang their heads to it and say thank you and go to shows and like I get to do the stuff that I always wanted to do when I like always going to shows. It's like I always say it. It's like, yeah, we're just all the same dudes. The only difference is I'm on the stage playing the riffs, and that's really it. I'm
Right.
just very fortunate that I eventually got to find some friends that to jam with and then write some songs and then play some shows and record some albums and do it tons and tons of times. But it's all it's all part of like this cool ecosystem that like makes me very proud to be a part of metal, period, whether it be people going to shows or doing podcasts or doing YouTube channels or recording or being engineers, like it's like everybody all exists to kind of keep the whole ecosystem and the whole heavy music world going.
Yeah.
Like bands and people who play in bands it's just such like a small part of it because like even from the early days of tape trading and zines and everything
Yeah.
it's like all of this stuff coexists because we all care and we all love it. Like before I was in bands I wanted to collect albums and go to shows and know about my favorite bands and stuff like that. And then eventually it was like, you know what? I want to try to learn how to play my favorite Metallica riff. And then it just turned into learning to play in bands. It's like you obviously have a reverence and a love for music and you want to document it and you want to kind of like pick people's brains and you want to see how things work. And that's no different than everybody else. Like I love knowing how songs work. I want to know how a great song works, a great riff works, a great show works, a great amp works, a great guitar works. It's like all just loving the music and loving your part of it and grasping it with every bit that you can and loving the shit out of it. And that's like kind of why I love playing different facets of heavy metal, whether it be brutal garbage toilet bowl death metal that like is just realistically the most unlistenable music on the planet, but I love it and it's like
Right.
what I live for. And then I go to play a style like a more melodic, palatable, I guess, quote unquote style of metal like Fit does. Like, but it's because I love riffs, I love music, I love songs. It's like I just want to create, and just like you want to create, you want to create content and interviews
Yeah.
and visual history, audio history. It's just wanting to be a part of everything in the scene and create. And I don't know, this is just me going on a high tangent at this point.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Fit, man. I mean, you got a new record coming out with that too. So you got dual records, and then I guess whatever you're working on with the other bands too, eventually. So maybe you
Yeah,
got like
yeah.
four records coming out.
Well, yeah, well, first and for like in 2024, there is only one album to be paying attention to from me, and that is the new Fit for an Autopsy album, the Nothing That Is, releasing, I believe, October 25th. If my date, if I recall correctly, on Nuclear Blast Records. But yeah, super, super, super stoked on the new Fit album. We're extremely proud of it. If you've ever been into this band, if for an autopsy at all, you'll definitely love what we have for the new album. You'll definitely see our progression. But
Yeah.
obviously, we have two singles out right now. The first one, Hostage, we released a couple weeks back, and then we just released um, Savior of None, Ashes of All, what I think 2, 3 days ago,
Yep.
as of the time of this
2 days ago.
interview. But yeah, the first two singles for our new album are out, and you know, uh, giving a little taste, of what we're giving you in the new album. You're obviously, plenty of familiar things, but probably a couple little new things, little new tinges in our sound, probably in the two songs. But
Yep.
if you know this band at all, you will be very happy, to hear the new album. In my opinion, as a person, I guess, a person from the outside Fit perspective coming in after joining the band, on like album four, like
Yep.
I think this is definitely the strongest Fit for an Autopsy album without a doubt. The songs are super, super strong. In my opinion, I think it's just a great I think it's a modern metal take on classic metal style and formula. Like it feels very classic metal in the songwriting and in the melodic ideas and like the power in the songs, but like obviously in a much modern context. But I'm very, very stoked on it, and I think Fit for an Autopsy fans will be very, very stoked on it for sure too.
Yeah, the band has done such a crazy job of evolving with every single record. I've been listening since the first the
Hell yeah.
absolutely nothing like stuff. So it's just like, you know, uh, the evolution is there with every single record and always trying to push yourself. So I'm really curious, like when you guys hunker down and like start writing songs, putting things together, what does that look like?
Well, first and foremost, the magic of Fit for an Autopsy is really behind our guitar player Will Putney.
Yeah.
He is the main driving creative force behind the band. And even since the early days, he's always had a strong musical and creative vision. Pat and Will both started the band together, and they've been carrying it since day one. But Will has really like crafted like a very strong musical kind of like identity with a lot of our songwriting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, like we have a very wide range of heavy music influences. Like we come from a very strong metal, underground, hardcore background, but like we love all styles of heavy music, and we always strive for that to come through in the music. But first and foremost, it's about the song and the power of the song and stuff like that. And obviously, we need strong riffs and stuff like that. But
Yep.
I think with Fit for an Autopsy, the song is always number one. And the power, and like that's really what it comes down to. But the musical vision is always like it's always in Will's head, and he's always got a lot of great ideas going on. But it's always like there's always riffs down in a folder and stuff like that. And eventually it's like start weeding through riffs and like what's cool, what isn't, and then things slowly start kind of putting together slowly and surely. But it really in the last couple months of like is really where things start shaping shape the most because it's when everybody's individual voices really start coming in because Joe's vocals start coming into play. Start having bass ideas. The lead guitars start coming in, and then like Hossein's drums start getting written and stuff like that. But like first and foremost, it's the artistic and musical vision of Will. But then and then I think it really comes down to all the little tiny inflections we all kind of bring in after the fact to kind of give the little bits that kind of, you know, fit for not to really kind of tie it in fully. But really when it comes down to it's a lot of it's Will's vision first and foremost, but it
Yeah.
really it comes down to our individual influences and love of heavy music together that kind of informs, because like we're always going to have like kind of a little Swedish tinge here. We're always going to like have a heavy like death metal tinge. We're always going to maybe grind a little bit, but we're always going to want to be moody and powerful and driving, regardless of what that takes shape in the style. But it's always going to be heavy first and foremost and impactful, whether it be in its brutality or in its mood, I think, really.
Yeah, Will's like I would love to pick his brain sometime, man, because like he's got a lot of cool stuff that I love, and then he's done some stuff where I'm like, what was he thinking with that? And I want to ask it, like what was your process with that? So, you work with him, so like when you guys are in there, how methodical is he with like stuff that you guys are laying down and like tracking and mastering and all that? Or I guess not
Well,
mastering, but mixing.
Will oversees every bit of all of Fit for an Autopsy's recording, and he is very much a master of all ceremonies. And like
Yeah.
he pours his heart and soul into every bit of the album. Even he's not playing drums, but he is there, like like pouring himself over everything and every nuance and everything. And it's absolutely inspiring to be able to be in a band with somebody with such a strong artistic vision. And and it like I said, it's truly inspiring. And it definitely helps me to want to be the best musician I can in that band, because it definitely inspires me because it's a different melodic aspect of my
Yeah.
playing that I don't really explore a lot of the times with other bands, because often I'm used to playing atonal brutal death metal. But being in Fit, I get to spread a melodic side that I don't get to, and I get to kind of explore a more traditional. I always think of it as a traditional heavy metal side of my playing and stuff like that, because it's my melodic side that
Mhm.
really it's my true love, like melodic classic um heavy music, and that's what I love exploring. And definitely being able to be with somebody that's so methodical and just you know um just a great mind for heavy music, whether it be songwriting or melodic ideas, or rhythmic ideas. It's always a masterclass with him, and it's I always come out of it inspired and ready to try new things and be a better player. And honestly, it's just being in Fit for an Autopsy is just it's one of the best things I've ever asked for to be as a musician. And it's definitely thanks to Will and being in a band with the best musicians I've ever been with by far, sure.
Yeah, it's like iron sharpens iron with all you guys, If you have this guy that's such a everything, I'm sure everybody's just being like, well, we want his level and get better, and then, it makes him get better too.
And that's another cool thing. And even before I truly knew the level of Will's mastery and stuff like that, when I joined Fit, it's because I was joining up with a team that I felt that were really, really good at their craft. And I was trying to join a team of all pros and all dudes that are really here to crush it. And that's what I wanted to bring to the table too. I wanted to bring, that same air of, professionalism and just wanting to try to kill it with them. And obviously, the outside's perspective coming into Fit, I was like, well, this is a pro band. I want to come in and I want to smash it, and I want to be that for them. And I think that's what we all try to do. We all try to inspire each other to be better and to be tighter and to be more proficient and to be better versions than we were last month, last album, last tour, or something like that.
Yeah. Is the process like pretty like do you hammer stuff out like like individually or track live? Like how do you guys do that?
I missed part of it. What was the beginning of that question?
Oh, so when you guys like do you track everything like individual guitars or do you like live track stuff? That's his process with that.
Everything is done in person with him. Obviously, we just grind and grind and grind, and we listen to the demos and we rehearse everything at home. And but it's very, very meticulous. Just
Damn.
every little thing in the studio, it's very, very much under the microscope. And
Yeah.
we do as much as we can at home and being prepared. But everything goes out the window when we're there because it's really like it's back to school. It's like, well, what you were doing was cool, but you need to make sure you're doing it as precise and as meticulously as you possibly can because we're trying to make sure we're we're trying to craft truly the best product we can. So
Yeah.
it's definitely a level of microscope that I had not been previously used to, but it's definitely something that I have learned to adapt to and kind of like put into my own repertoire as much as possible. Obviously, I'm always like I try to go for best takes and best performance I can always, but being doing albums with Fit has definitely brought me to a different level with that. Because obviously Will is just a master of engineering and recording and stuff like that, and he's recorded so many bands and so many top-notch dudes. It's being under the tightest microscope you can be, but it also makes sure that you have the best performances. Everything is done to the best ability, and it truly results in the best product you possibly can. And for something that has to stand the test of time,
Yeah.
it allows us to really be happy and fully proud of the product.
So how long did it take you to get all your stuff done?
I think bass tracking was like 4 full days,
Damn,
and
dude.
it was not nearly as long as like all the rhythm guitars and the leads and
Yeah.
stuff like that. I only have to track one track of bass. It's just once. All the guitars, it's like, oh, it's like, all right, all the rhythms and then all the leads. And it's and the drums are even, I have it easy. Bass is the easy part.
Um, I'm not sure how you can speak on this as far as like your input on it, but I wanted to at least ask, and if it's nothing, we can just go on. But the some of the lyric writing in the band, there's a lot of aspects of like socio-political the years. Is that like a very conscious decision within the band to that stuff?
Um, well, I think that always just comes down to like the band's personal ethics and just where we come from in general. Our DIY underground backgrounds.
Yeah,
The most brutal thing and the most gripping thing in the world is reality.
yeah,
Um, you know, that's really what it comes down to, and that's personally always been, I think, how we all feel as far as lyrical content is. I might play in a lot of death metal over the years, but um, you know, a lot of the times the death metal I play and the death metal I write about isn't so much the gore, the death metal, and stuff like that. It's usually a lot more real and stuff like that. Some of it might get a little like fantasy based or a little bit out there, something like that. But it's always very dark and very real. And but especially with Dysentery, but even so with more so with Fit just dives into the real horrors of the world. I think whether it be of mankind or war or politics, but also we believe now more than ever it's kind of you got to talk about it. You have to bring attention to it. You have to. There's a reality that a lot of people don't want to pay attention to, and
Yeah.
I don't know. There has to be some light shed on it, and it's stuff that we have through our whole lives always felt strongly about, and it's just it definitely. Long story short, the band believes in this for sure, and the most brutal thing in the world is reality, and but the
Yeah.
band is all the Fit for an Autopsy is always written about things of this nature, the duality of man, the destructive nature of man. Sometimes we touch upon more specific instances or aspects of stuff like that, but it's always been the most gripping and compelling things to us, and lyrically it's always going to be the strongest things. People relate to it the most, and sometimes you have to talk about things some people don't want to talk about. you know
Yeah. Yeah, and I think having that deeper message in there, goes a long way too. Not that it's not fun to write about, brutal death metal. Um, and I know
listen
this is
listen
before.
I love my Cannibal Corpse albums.
Yeah.
I love I love my Immolation. I love my anti I love all this. I love fantasy. I love gore and all that stuff, and it's all cool. But that's not what I personally want in my music lyrically a lot of the time. And it's cool.
Right.
And I want it in other bands, but for me, reality is more brutal. You know.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is where you got in the band, but I remember when they dropped that Black video and they were usage of the pipeline and stuff, and like that was the first time in a while I had seen a band like use that to be like, hey, this is an issue. We need to like people should know about this. And it made to it and I was like, holy fucking shit, like this is
Yeah,
such a huge
yeah.
thing and
That
like
was during my first album cycle with Fit for an Autopsy
okay.
for the Great Collapse, and that for Black Mammoth, that was one of the first times we really dove into specific issues, and we're in that song that references the Dakota Access Pipeline,
Yeah.
and big oil, and the destruction of native lands for the gain of big oil. And that's just one of those things that, like I said, it's a lot one of those issues that a lot of light isn't being it wasn't being shown on, and
Yeah.
these are very real atrocities going on in our country under our own watch, and people people aren't wise to it, because obviously it's not what happens a lot, what you're not going to hear about in news outlets a lot of the time, but these are very real things affecting real people, the native people of our country, the original settlers of our country, being basically just wiped off. It's no different than Palestinians,
Yeah.
and but it's like we're trying to give a little bit more of a voice for people, maybe in a marginalized situation that might not have it, and just trying to give a little bit more eyes and ears on something, and but we always want to try to put some shine on a situation, that maybe something like that. And on the new album, we obviously we will dive into more topics of that, and there you will be there'll be plenty more to get into on the new Fit album for sure.
I'm definitely looking forward to that. Yeah, I just remember how impactful it was because I was a little bit younger then and I was like, damn man, this is like like I said, the first time in a long in a band like a message to get across because you don't see it very often and I think that's it is what it is.
And
Bands
well,
can
yeah,
do whatever they want.
obviously every band has the right to do what they want, but this is a situation that needed some more attention going on, and especially nowadays where things get swept under the rug more than they ever.
Yeah.
We need to just if you see something, you need to speak up about it, and this is our way of speaking up about it. Like don't let shit go But like, if you see something that doesn't feel right, or, like, don't feel wrong about speaking up about it, like, sometimes other people aren't strong enough to it. Be that, try to be the change you want, or any way you can.
Yeah. Yeah, that's couldn't have said it better myself. So I guess one last with, between both of your bands is kind of a cliche, and I know it's hard as an artist to kind of answer this, but what are the things you are proud of the most between both the record you having out this year and next year that you've like, damn, I can't believe we did this or I did this.
Well, number one, it's probably going to be, it's kind of like the same answer for both, but like,
Hey, that
I
works.
just, I can't, I'm just very, every day that I get to play music and get to play in bands, I get to play shows, I get to record. I'm just amazed. I'm just so happy and fortunate that I get to, 25 years into playing in bands and doing this thing called metal. Like, I get to record albums, I get to tour, I get to play shows with my friends. I get to play music that people like. I get to meet cool people like you, and do new things and podcasts and get to talk to people about stuff. And like, I don't know, like, we get to be like, all of this allows me to be a part of an amazing community and an amazing world that I arguably wouldn't have purpose on this planet for if this stuff didn't exist. Like, I am so happy that I get to play in all bands and playing anything, because it's an amazing thing to feel the power of music and to be able to write and record music, and to be able to get better, in my opinion, get better at my crafting and be able to create better music for the last album. And a band like Dysentery, that I've been that a band has been Dysentery has been going for, I think, 22 years. We're going to be releasing our fourth full length. A death metal band generally doesn't last several decades, so
Yeah,
the fact
right.
that an underground brutal slam band, can do it that long is pretty awesome. And I'm stoked that I have a cool team of dudes that were able to do it, and still be able to do it. And then I'm even more fortunate to be able to be in a band like Fit for an Autopsy with a amazing team of dudes that, we're out here to try to do it for as long as we can, to go as far as we can and have fun with it. And uh I'm all just so fortunate and very stoked. And I love metal, and I love all of this, and these albums make me very stoked and very fortunate, to do all of this.
Fuck yeah, man.
But yeah,
That's a good way to end it right there.
but yeah,
Awesome, man. Well, so I guess October, I think that's right too. Last I had
yeah,
checked, something like that.
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, but mark that calendar, guys. New Fit for an Autopsy album, and nothing that is, hot shit coming at you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so
and
I just
and
listened
and
to the
and
new
then
song.
2025, new
Yeah,
Dysentery, and then
yeah,
new
yeah.
scattered remnants in 2025, and maybe new Exorcist as well in 2025. But you need to pay attention to the new Fit for an Autopsy album first and foremost right now, because that is priority number one.
That's right. So what's coming out this year. So
Hell yeah, brother.